everyone, and welcome to Naveem Connect, the place where spirituality meets the messy but beautiful reality of being human. I'm your host, Jean, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Humphrey.
Hey everyone, it is so good to be here with you today, Jean. Since it's August, our theme for the month is preparation. Today, we're diving into an incredibly powerful episode called The Student Mindset. Think about where we are in our lives right now. Most of us in that 25 to 55 window are expected to be experts, the parents, the leaders, and the people who have it all figured out. But true professional spiritual preparation actually requires us to do the exact opposite. We need to drop the armor and adopt a beginner's mindset. Today, we're talking about why the most evolved people are actually those who are secure enough to admit they don't have all the answers, and why true freedom comes from being completely willing to be bad at something new.
Oh, I love this so much, Humphrey. You and I talk about this all the time. The absolute exhaustion of trying to look flawless and professional at every turn, especially when navigating heavy life transitions or new workplace technology. Reclaiming that curiosity feels like a total superpower. Let's dig right into the roots of this. To get us grounded, how do we even begin to define what a true student mindset looks like when society expects us to already know everything?
Well, where do we start on this one? I figured, thinking about today, I thought about an example, right? So I think everybody has been in a classroom or in a work environment or in a meeting. Let's call it a meeting or a classroom, right? Where somebody is talking about a theme or a subject and they say an acronym, right? Says a word or something that you have no idea what it is, right? So the difference is somebody that has the student mindset is that person that has no issues stopping the meeting or raising their hand and saying, "Excuse me, would you mind explaining what that means?" Right? I don't know it. Could you explain? Versus the person that would just shut up, keep it quiet, not understand what's happening, and then eventually fail or do bad on whatever the assignment or the job project is because they never ask. Right,
Yeah.
which is one of my pet peeves in professional life, but that is the difference, right? So having an open, a beginner's mindset are the people that are actually willing to admit, I don't know something, all right, help me, or what I need to do to understand it.
I mean, I feel like when you're explaining that situation, right? And I'm trying to empathize with it, I think people don't say anything because they don't want to ask what they think might be an obvious, like something that
Right,
everybody knows, right?
right.
And little do they know, oftentimes, that they're not the only ones in the room that's actually wondering the same thing.
That's true, right? Most people are
but
always
there,
like, "What?"
but there's a level of like, I think in order to have a beginner's mindset, there has to be, there's obviously curiosity because
Hmm.
you have to be curious about something to want to learn it, but you also
Right,
have to be brave,
you do.
right? Because in learning something new, you start off by admitting that you don't know it.
Right,
And for some
right.
people, or for most of us, that's really hard to admit or to be vulnerable about, especially because like we're in a place where, or we have roles where people look up to us and like expect us to just know everything.
Yeah, actually, I feel I was saying I feel, but I believe as you get older, the
Yeah.
harder it becomes for you to have that beginner's mindset, right? Because as you said, you have that role set up. You're the father figure, the parent, or you might be a manager at your job or an executive, and nobody wants to admit, right? Like, oh, I don't know it, right?
Yeah.
And on a personal level, I feel when I was younger, I used to be like that. Like I used to be like, no, no, I know it all. Kind of like a more like a cocky person. I know things, right? Whereas now I'm more open to. I've learned that it's like you said, 9 out of 10 people in a room they don't understand. Like if you don't get it, chances are most people also don't get it. Now, there are situations where you might be the new person, right? You're the new person in the job, or you're the new person in a group
Mhm.
or at university when you're a freshman. Uh, and that's okay, right? That's okay. Now, the interesting part is the people that that excel at anything, whether it's professionally or in the spiritual realm, that do progress, are the people that actually ask questions. Like some of the smartest in some, like I'm going to use Elon Musk as an example. That man will just ask questions. Like even though he's considered one of the smartest people, if he doesn't know something, he'll ask, "What does that mean? What does that mean?" Because that is the only way to learn.
I actually feel like the smartest person in the room isn't the one that knows all the answers, but
Mm-hmm.
asks all the right questions.
That's right.
Because in
That's
order
right.
for you, like as you're learning things and you're connecting the dots on something, you have to, in order, like if you're understanding it, there's always going to be a follow-up question, right? As you're
Mm-hmm.
like connecting the dots. So
Right.
I always look for the people that ask great questions versus
Yeah.
like the people that have all the answers. And if you think
Right.
about it now with AI, like everybody can come up with the answer. You just type it in, the internet AI, it'll tell you stuff.
Right. Right. It's true, but I think what we're trying to get to, and I think what we want our listeners to get to is like we're using this as an example, but the behavior is a representation of how you, as an individual, the way you think or the behavior that you do, right? So when you're willing to ask the question or you have that beginner's mindset, it means that you're open to getting new information. You're open to be vulnerable to saying, I don't I want I'm open to something new. I'm open to learning, right?
Mm,
Whereas people that don't, it's a behavior thing, right? So it shows you that you're kind of more a close off person. You're willing, you're kind of more set in your ways. Hence what I'm saying, as you get older, it usually tends to be that way. Now, an interesting preparation for today, Gene, I was reading an article. There is, so in the brain, there's neuroplasticity, right?
yeah. Yeah.
And they've come to a number of studies that as you get older, right, that decreases because you stop literally learning. Like you kind of get set on your ways,
Right.
and that actually drives a lot of degeneration in the brain and eventually cause Alzheimer's and other things. But I find it, I bring it up because it's interesting that our
Yeah.
own body is made to learn, is made to change, for you to always adapt and change and be open to learning new, because that is the progress, right? That's what we're meant to progress in whatever we're doing in our career or in our
So this
spiritual
is one of
path.
life's use it or lose it scenarios.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So not just because it's good for you, but it is good for your health. It's good for your health to be going to that mindset.
I think also like if we have a perspective change on it, right? Looking at it not from like I don't want to appear like I don't know because
Mm-hmm.
or like I don't want to ask these questions, but you're on a learning path, right? And no
Right,
matter where you are on the learning path, whether you're just starting out in the middle or even in the late learning like part of the learning path and you know a lot about the subject, there's always going to be questions that need to be asked. And let's say a beginner asks a very obvious questions,
mm,
that can actually, for the person that's on the later path learning that knows more than the beginner, by the beginner asking a question that is fundamental and having the person that knows explain it,
mm,
like it actually will drive potentially a new idea or innovation or a rethinking of something that has been established,
right, right, right. Because it makes
right?
you
And
think from a
so,
different perspective.
yeah. And I think, like, at the end of the day, like, the reframing of the perspective is like, if I'm here to learn, shouldn't the learning be your highest priority?
Right. It should be. It should be.
Right?
Now, what do you think we do that? What do you think people do that? Why do you think? why do people feel then like are not willing to be vulnerable and say,
Well, I
what
can
is
speak
that,
for
or ask that
myself. I
question?
don't know why. I don't know if I can speak for all of mankind. But for me, I think in the times that I don't ask questions or something like that is because I don't. I'm self conscious or I'm insecure about the topic, or I am not as close with the people that are in the room when I'm going to ask the question. And I'm
Right,
afraid that me asking the question, they will think that I'm stupid or I'm not smart, or not go as far as saying I'm stupid, but I'm not smart, or
right,
I'm wasting their time, or all those things. The part of your brain that's mean to you will come up with all these things on why you shouldn't ask the question. And that
right,
part of the brain also is the part of the brain that talks to you, that prevents you from doing anything in life,
right,
or in
right.
fact experiencing life. I pretty much now have spent the better part of my life trying to learn how to tell that part of my brain to shut up. And it's a continued battle every day.
Right. No, I think so. I think you hit on something I can relate to, the whole fear, like the fear and the whole, well, the fear of, if you're in a room or in a situation where there's a social gathering, or it's a classroom or a work environment, that you don't want them to think, or what you said, that you don't want them to think like, I'm stupid, or I don't know what I'm saying, like I'm not smart. That is, I think that everybody can relate to that, right? Everybody can relate to the fact like nobody wants to be that person, right? But
Mm-hmm.
you know, thinking about it, why is that? Like, you mean like we shouldn't be like that, right? If you think about it, if I mentioned like our bodies are made to learn stuff, it's good to ask the questions, but somehow our society, we're all conditioned to have that fear, because I think it is a conditioning. Anything, it's not like, because I see that the reason I'm saying condition is because I think about my kids when they were little, and even if you look at any kid, kids don't have that. Kids always ask questions. Actually, it's kind of not like a phase, right? When you go to like the four terrible,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the two
yeah.
terrible,
But
kids will
why? But
just
why?
ask, but why? But why? Right? Right? Because they're learning, right? They're learning. They're, but why? But why? But why?
Yeah.
But at some point, you get kind of boxed in into no, 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 don't ask. That's no good.
I mean, I think there's a level of, like we said initially, that the internal fear. And
Right.
then now what we're saying is that there's also external influences, right? Whether
Right.
you, like, let's say at work, you have a manager that, like, when you ask questions, has a negative response,
Mm-hmm.
or, you know, whatever, like a negative response, then you'll learn that you shouldn't ask questions, or that
Yeah.
you should be afraid to ask questions, right?
Right.
And so I think, I mean, the funny thing is probably the manager doesn't know the answer, so then they make you feel sad, like bad for asking the question. It's like a vicious
But
cycle,
that,
you know?
but no, but that is a vicious cycle, right? Because instead of saying, "Look, I don't know the answer, but I'll find out," right? Like that
Yeah.
would make it understandable. Like I feel in my own like being vulnerable in my own personal life, I feel like I have been to an arch. Like my early part of my career, I was like cocky and I thought I knew everything. Then I went through a phase that I would ask, I wouldn't care who was in the room, and I would have just asked the question. Like if I wanted to know something, I would ask the question, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of at the time got me a little bit of trouble, but I didn't care. I was like, ah. And then uh, I went into, when we got acquired, I went to that situation, which is like completely new. It was a corporate environment that I
Yeah.
had never, like a scenario that I never been to. And I actually, in that scenario, I actually felt like I couldn't ask. Like I was very, like, I don't know. It was like it was proper fear. On that one, it was proper fear, but it was more a fear like I'm gonna lose my. But it was in my soul. I was very fearful. And then when I
Yeah.
left that, I kind of got to a place where it's like, why, right? Like
Well, maybe it's the fear is direct, the amount, how big the fear is directly related to how much you feel like you have on the line.
that is a good point. That is a good point. Yeah, I think, and I
Maybe
think
that's what it is.
That's probably what it is. And I think a lot of people
For
are
me, it's
probably,
the more people are in the room, the more fearful I get because, I have this whole thing with public speaking too. So it's
yeah.
like, you know, because that's what I'm saying.
True.
Like the
Yeah.
amount of fear is directly with how much you have on the line.
No, no, it's true. It's true.
I mean, here, I'll ask you this question, right? Because you're a parent and I'm
Right.
not a parent, but I have a very acute sense of like I remember how I felt about my parents, right?
Yeah.
And as a kid, when you're like dealing with your parents, you expect them to be perfect because you expect them to just know,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
right? I think that's why as kids we come down on our parents so hard because we expect them to be perfect because they should just know the right thing to do and they should just know how to help me on algebra and they should just know all of these things, right?
Right.
We don't step back and go, would my mom know how to do trigonometry? You would just go to them and be like, hey, can you help me with this math problem? And
Yeah.
then they're like, huh? But they need to figure it out.
Right. You know what? I think you're so on that line. Maybe because I agree with you. That's what we do. Like as a kid, and I think that's a big. We all do that. We carry that then into our adult life with whoever we consider to be the authority figures, right? Whether it's our manager or
The
whatever it is. So
experts or
the
whatever.
experts, you expect them to know. Like
Yeah.
it's like an expectation. I think you're right. It's an expectation. So I think so. With that, it's more of we need to break that cycle. We need to break that cycle, right? Like we need
Yeah.
to kind of, or I would say, no, break the cycle. Free yourselves from that expectation. Just like you mentioned to your analogy, when you're a kid, you see your parents in a particular way, and then when you become an adult, if you've done the work, then you shift and you see them as people, and that's when you realize they don't know everything. They don't know. They don't have all the answers, right? And you're comfortable
Well,
with that.
life
So
is
maybe
cyclical
we
that
need
way
to do the
because
same.
life is cyclical, right? In the sense of like the kid becomes the parent and the parent and when they become the parent like you now
Right.
have that perspective of like, oh crap, I don't know everything. And
Right.
so therefore when I was a kid and I expected my parents to know everything,
Right.
they didn't.
Right. So how do we? So if we So the reason we're talking about this is twofold, right? It's one from obviously a personal perspective, but also on a spiritual journey piece, right? It's important
Mm-hmm.
to be able to go through that journey. You got to know, you got to be able to be open to learning new things or getting new knowledge. How do we break that cycle? Like, given that it's ingrained, and I think we're landing in like it is built, whether it's society, you're going out, whatever it is, we all have it. How do we break out of it? How do we transition into it?
For those of you, my answer would be for those of you that watch Seinfeld, in the infinite
Ooh,
wisdom of George Costanza, do the opposite. So, let's
okay.
say
All
currently
right.
you're afraid, have
Yeah.
courage. If you're closed, be open. If you feel like, as you're kind of like processing and trying to evaluate why you don't ask questions, if it's an ego thing, then be humble,
Okay.
right? Like do the opposite, I guess. I don't know.
So you said ego thing. How do we
Mm-hmm.
know if it's an ego? How do you define? How do we distinguish between uh let's say me? So you're in a situation and you need to learn, and you're like, yeah, yeah, I want to know. I need to know this, or I need to identify. I don't know this. I need to learn it. Whereas an ego scenario, how do I know if it's my ego versus me, or is my fear?
I mean, your fear, I mean, your ego could also be generating that fear. I don't want people to think this, right? And that's a
Right.
fear,
Uh-huh.
right?
Okay.
I think an ego can be good for one because I think it gives you the confidence to be brave, right? But
Yeah.
then too much ego can render you closed and closed-minded.
Okay.
And
All right.
and I think your question is, how do you know when it's ego or not?
Yeah,
I
like how do
mean,
I know if it's, like how do I identify, right, in a scenario, like if it's like how do I identify if it's my ego or if it's me, like how do I identify if I'm okay, like if I go in a scenario, let's say a meeting, and I'm just work, just seems that everybody can relate to that, and I'm given a task or a question, and I say, okay, I don't know that, so let me ask for help or let me ask the answer, versus no, this is like I
I
know
think
this and I keep myself quiet.
how I identify when my ego comes into place is when whatever feeling or outcome that I do is based on the lens is only based on me and how it
Okay.
reflects me,
Okay. Okay.
right? Or how people will see me, right? Like things that are
Right.
specific, that lens of just looking just for me.
Right.
That's, I feel like, is when ego comes into place. But I also think
Okay.
there's good and bad ego, right? They're good and ego can do good and bad things for you.
Oh, this is going to be controversial. We're saying it's good or bad ego because everybody's like, oh, ego's bad. Your ego, your ego. But I agree with, but for the record, I agree with
No, I
you.
think
There is good,
there
it's good
there's a you
things.
could have a healthy good amount of like ego
Everything in
that
life is
helps you
balance.
to stand up for yourself, to help you to have confidence and to be
Right.
brave, to take steps into stuff that you don't know, right?
Right.
And stuff like that. You need that.
Okay. I agree. You do need a level. It's all balance. Life is like I tell my kids, life is all about balance. As long as you do it in moderation and in balance, you're good. Okay, so if I have an ego, so I determine, and I like that, by the way, Gene. Like I like that. I never thought about it that way, but you're right. If I think about it, how does it affect me? So about me, then
It's
that's
always
a
like the
clear
lens
way.
is always like it's coming the color lens is always like you, and
Yeah, yeah,
then
yeah, 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 yeah. That's true.
everything else that comes out of that view
Okay.
for that situation.
So okay. So how do we? Okay, so we identified with how we know the ego. We can identify what is the ego or if it's us. How do we then? So how do we gave them examples of how do we get over it or what things we can do to kind of get into the mindset. But how can we identify when we are in the like when we have done that shift? Like right, like how do I know that I did some of the work? I did the opposite of what was my bad brain was thinking. I followed the advice. How do I know? Like meaning either spiritually or no, like is there a way for me to kind of like know that I'm on the right path or like that I'm shifting to that mind frame, to that student mind frame?
I think for me, it's when I became less concerned about looking like I didn't know something and more concerned about actually learning whatever it is I was there to learn.
Okay.
So you prioritize the knowledge versus or you than your own fears. Because I mean, I still in those moments I still am like, oh, I'm afraid that they're gonna think I'm stupid, right? But at the same moment, but I would rather know the answer versus I care whether they think I'm stupid,
Right. Right.
right?
And then and that applies either on a work environment or on the spiritual side, right? And I think, you know, taking a little bit to the spiritual side, it's good to have the reason to it's important to have that mind frame is because that's how you learn, right? The he who seeks will find is kind of the term that they say, right? So in order to seek, you need to ask. You need to have that mentality of I need to know more, or I don't know that. Let me find more information. Right?
I feel like learning is something that happens and it is a continuous process that will never ever stop because knowledge doesn't change and it evolves.
Right.
And so the moment that you believe that you know everything is the moment that you stop learning and this moment that you start not knowing.
Right.
Right, because the more
It's true.
information evolves and the where you stop and where it evolves to, at some point you're going to be the beginner or the person that has the obsolete information.
Right.
So in order for
Right.
you to continue to like you need to continue to learn,
Right. Right. And I'm gonna say
or
something.
like the brain will do, it's
It
use it or
will. It
lose
will.
it.
Like the neuroplasticity stops. But it's interesting because a long time ago I learned there was the statistics, and it's a technology of statistics, but it relates to this theme, which is whatever you learn up to your age of 35, it's where you kind of most people just get stuck there, right? So if a new technology comes out or something new, a new skill, you learn something up to 35, that's it, right? That's what you learn. Something new comes after that, and you're like, yeah, you're kind of more hesitant because naturally, for you become that close, right? So
I don't think it's the close. I mean, I guess if you really dissect it, it's your being closed. But I think the overall is like you typically want to lean to what you know, and that's normal. Everybody
yeah,
wants to
yeah,
lean to what they
yeah,
know or lean
because
to
it's a
what
comfort
they're good
zone,
at, right?
right?
Because it's comfortable, and it's
Right,
very uncomfortable to learn something new or not to know something,
right,
right? And I think the people that end up being successful or they thrive is that they're okay in environments where they're uncomfortable.
exactly, exactly. And that's what we want everybody to get to, right? For not just for your own personal and professional life, but also on the spiritual path. It's important that you're comfortable in the uncomfort. I would say.
I
Now,
mean, you're
what kind
uncomfortable
of
either way. You're uncomfortable
actually
for
true,
either way. You just like if you're gonna be uncomfortable, make it worth it.
right?
That's
Yeah,
that's how I think of it,
yeah,
right?
that's
Because
true.
if you don't do the work because you don't want to be uncomfortable and you lean into what you already know, you still will be uncomfortable at the end of the day
Right?
because then you won't know stuff anymore and then you'll be uncomfortable. But
Yeah,
then if you lean into the uncomfort and you know more stuff and you keep your knowledge up and you keep your neuroplasticity up and you continue using your brain or you continue to evolve your spirit, the uncomfortableness is, I feel like it has less of an edge,
yeah, yeah. I never
right?
thought
And
about
then
that,
you
but
get
that's right.
so much more out of life, both in your
True.
professional life and then just in life in general.
Right. It's good. All right. So we always kind of get to the point where we have to do, are there any habits or things that people can do, practical ways that they can get to this mindset? Is there anything they can do?
To get to the beginner's mindset,
Yeah. To like,
I mean,
so
isn't getting to the beginner's mindset the easiest thing to do because it's the beginning? So you just
no,
gotta,
but we said look, between our ego or fear, there's many things that are keeping us there, right? So
yeah.
we always tell people like, okay, we always say like, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna say something similar today, but we always give them advice on like, look, what are the skill sets that they have to like, what are little things that they can do, practical ways to get themselves to that point, right? Because it's one thing for us to say, be open minded and do the opposite of things, but at the end of the day, when you're in it, it's hard unless you have some practical advice. So, what can we suggest to people?
Uh, maybe start off by, I mean, we always say start off in like, but with baby steps, right? And so I
Yeah,
guess with this one, the baby step would be like maybe instead of telling an entire room that you don't know and asking the question, right? Maybe start asking questions when you're in smaller groups around people
Right.
that are like your friends, that you
Right.
can, that you feel safe being vulnerable around, to be like, hey, can you like clarify that when you don't know?
Yeah, that's a good one. Now, also, there's one, and this one, I have to say, you helped me with this personally. So
Me?
I
Okay, let's hear
believe
it.
this next one, I am gonna recommend it to everybody. So one of the things also that I think people doesn't people believe, oh, I don't have enough. I need a lot of time to learn something new, right? Or I need
Mm,
to have a clear schedule kind of thing. And when you're a busy person and professionally, your schedule is usually packed, right? Your back
yeah.
to back meetings and all of that. And it's counterproductive to think, no, if you block off times in your schedule to either do work or think or learn something new, it's actually more productive, right? And it gives you that space. I was one of those people that thought, no, 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 my schedule has to be all packed. And you, of all people, were the one that kind of helped me with blocking times and make that. And that has made a
Yeah.
massive change for me.
Yeah.
And it's I can vouch for this one. If you block times, just block. It doesn't have to be a big portion. You can block up, 30 minutes. Just block it off and say learning time or self improvement time, and let everybody know. Look, I'm blocking time because I need this. Start small. It'll give you that break. All you need is that break to kind of get your mind clear and pick something small to start learning. And you don't have to learn for like an hour. You can just literally take, 20 minutes or 15 minutes at a time, but do it consistently. And that it helps me. I can vouch it works. And thank you, Gene, because you're the one that actually implemented it for me. I it
You're
works.
welcome. You're welcome.
It works.
Yeah, I mean, I think bite-sized learning is important. I mean, think about like those apps that are super like popular, like Duolingo, right? Like
Right.
I learn Spanish like 5 minutes a day,
Yeah.
right? But now, I can understand a little bit.
There you go. There you go.
So I think micro learning is like giving your yourself the space to take the time to kind of learn things is important. I also feel like we should just not try to always be buttoned up and always be like know everything, because we don't,
Right.
and that's okay. And I think it's okay to show each other that we don't know everything. And I think when the more open we are and we change the tide of that in society, the more we can actually innovate and learn from each other, and then question old norms or old constructs, and
Right.
like and why we're doing things the way we're doing, or why, you know, established ideas, are they correct or wrong? I think those all need to be looked at from a beginner's mindset.
Right. And on that note, I think what as you go through that and you implement these things, you may run into people that are either asking you why are you doing this, or why are you changing that, or may question your methods, especially if you start blocking time. But it's okay. Be comfortable just saying, no, I'm taking time for my learning, or I'm whatever path I'm kind of like learning something new, or I'm experimenting with this. It's okay. Just you don't have to give a lot of explanations. Just state the fact. One, as people see you changing, that will stop, and most likely, and you can don't take my word for it. Just do it yourself. They might start asking you questions, and they may start following you and say, "Hey, what do you know? What have you done? You seem different, or you're behaving different, right?" So that's something that we all can do to do our little piece to help others in their path.
For sure, for sure. Well, I think that's all the time we have for today. As I sit here and I look back at everything that we've unraveled today, I'm thinking about how much energy we waste trying to look like we have things all figured out. And in a culture that worships like polished final products, choosing to be messy, choosing to be kind of a wide eyed beginner is a profound act of courage. And true preparation for the next season of our lives isn't about collecting more armor or pretending to be bulletproof. It's about having the strength to drop the armor completely and look at the world with fresh eyes and let our curiosity lead the way.
That is very beautiful, Jean. And it actually hit close to home for me. As I said, you helped me in a number of things. But I think it's an invitation for all of us to drop that heavy burden of expertise, right? Or I know it all. So here's our call to action for everybody listening this week. And honestly, a major challenge for us: find one area in your life where you've been holding back because you're afraid you won't be perfect at it. Whether it's a new software at work, a creative hobby, or a difficult conversation, step into it this week with a pure beginner's mindset. Give yourself permission to be clumsy. Ask the basic questions and see what incredible clarity surfaces when you let go of the need to look flawless. Remember, true growth is waiting right there in the unknown. Until next time, this is Gene and Humphrey signing off. Stay connected, stay kind.